$40,000. That's what I owed. And baby, I didn't even know it existed. January 1988, Fulton County Courthouse, Atlanta, Georgia. I walked out of that building a divorced woman. $200 in my purse, 6 credit card accounts in my name that Dwayne had maxed out without me ever seeing a single statement. Not one statement, not ever. Tamara was 15, Malcolm was 10, and little Brianna was just 7 years old. And their mama was standing on that courthouse sidewalk with $200 and $40,000 worth of somebody else's bad decisions tied around her neck. 37 years old, starting from less than zero. That same woman retired in June 2018 with $340,000, a paid-off home in Decatur, not one penny of debt left on this earth. Stay with me today, because I'm going to tell you exactly how that happened. My name is Rosa Mae Washington. Most people call me Mama Rose. I am 75 years old. I spent 33 years as a school nurse, Grady Memorial Hospital, then Atlanta Public Schools until the day I retired in June 2018. I am not a financial advisor. I have no degree in money. What I have is a story, a real one, with real numbers, real mistakes, and a real way out. And if you are sitting here right now with debt that feels bigger than your future, or a bank account that runs out before the month does, or a retirement that feels more like a dream than a plan, baby, this video is for you. I have been exactly where you are, and I found a way through. Let me show you how. Before January 1988, I thought I was doing everything right. I was working full-time at Grady Memorial Hospital, on my feet 12 hours a day, taking care of other people's children, coming home to take care of my own. Dwayne worked, I worked, the bills got paid, the lights stayed on, the children had what they needed. I didn't ask questions about the money. That was my first mistake. See, in our house, Dwayne handled the finances. That was just how it was. That was how a lot of households worked back then. The husband manages the money, the wife trusts the husband. I trusted Dwayne. 15 years I trusted that man with every dollar we made. I never opened a single bill, never checked a single account, never asked where the money was going or where it had been. I was a good nurse, a good mother, a good wife, but I was a blind partner. And in 1988, when that marriage ended, I found out exactly what 15 years of blind trust had cost me. I just didn't know the full number yet. The divorce papers came with a financial disclosure. That is when I saw it. 6 credit card accounts, all in my name, all joint, all maxed out. Sears, J.C. Penney, First Atlanta Bank, 2 Visa cards, 1 MasterCard. $40,000. I remember sitting at my kitchen table in Atlanta looking at that number, just looking at it, like if I stared long enough it would change. It didn't change. Dwayne was gone, the debt was mine. Every single penny of it was legally mine. And I had $200 in a checking account and 3 children who needed lunch money on Monday morning. I went back to work the next day, because what else was I going to do? But here's what nobody tells you about that kind of debt. It doesn't just take your money, it takes your options. Every single month, I was paying minimum payments on accounts I never opened, for things I never bought, things I never even saw. The interest alone was eating me alive. In 1988, credit card interest rates were running between 18 and 21%. On $40,000, that meant I was being charged somewhere between $600 and $700 every single month before I paid down a single dollar of what I actually owed. I was running and standing at the same time. 3 years after that divorce, I was still carrying $34,000 in debt. 3 years of payments, and I had barely moved. I was 40 years old. I had nothing saved, no retirement, no emergency fund, nothing. And I remember one night sitting at that same kitchen table after the children were in bed, looking at those statements and thinking, is this just my life now? Now here is what I need you to understand. I was not special. I was not uniquely unlucky. Right now in America, there are 34 million women living in households where they have no idea what the family finances actually look like. 34 million. So if any part of my kitchen table story sounds familiar to you, you are not alone and you are not stuck. It was 1991. I was sitting in the break room at Grady Memorial, eating a sandwich I had packed from home because I couldn't afford the cafeteria that week. A woman named Claudette Morris sat down across from me. Claudette was a senior nurse, 15 years older than me, steady woman, the kind of woman who always seemed like she knew something you didn't. She looked at my face and said, "Rosa Mae, what is wrong with you?" I told her everything, the divorce, the debt, the $200, the 6 accounts, all of it. She didn't flinch. She didn't gasp. She just nodded slow and said, "Child, you need a number and a plan. Everything else is just noise." That was it. No magic, no miracle, just a woman who had walked through her own fire, telling me that surviving this was not about feelings. It was about a number and a plan. I went home that night and I wrote down every single debt I had, every account, every balance, every interest rate. For the first time in my life, I faced the full number. And that was the night everything changed. Here is what Claudette meant by a number and a plan. First, the number. You cannot fight what you cannot see. I had been making minimum payments for 3 years without ever sitting down and facing the full picture, the complete list, every debt, every rate, every minimum payment written down in one place. That list is your number. It feels terrifying to write it down, I know, because as long as it lives in your head, it stays foggy, and foggy feels safer than clear. But foggy is a lie. Clear is the only thing that saves you. Once I had my number, I did what Claudette told me. I called every single creditor, all 6 of them, and I negotiated. Most people don't know you can do this. In 1991, I called First Atlanta Bank and told them plainly, "I am a divorced mother of 3. I am a nurse. This debt was not mine. I cannot pay 21% interest and feed my children. What can we do?" They dropped my rate. Not all of them did, but enough of them did that my monthly interest burden dropped by nearly $200 a month. That $200 became my weapon. I took that $200 and I attacked the smallest account first, paid it off completely, then took everything I was paying on that account and added it to the next one. Today, people call this the debt snowball. In 1991, I just called it survival. By 1995, the $40,000 was gone. 7 years after that divorce, I was completely debt-free. And in 1992, before that debt was even fully paid, I opened my first retirement account through Atlanta Public Schools. That is the part most people miss. You do not wait until the debt is gone to start building. You do both at the same time. Even small, even $25 a month, you start. That $25 a month in 1992 grew alongside everything else I built, and it became part of the $340,000 I retired with in 2018. The plan is not complicated. The plan is just a number, a negotiation, and a decision to start before you feel ready. Now, before I close today, I want to tell you one thing I have never told on camera before. The house on Elm Street in Decatur that I paid off in 2017, I almost didn't buy it. In 2005, I was 55 years old, and every voice in my head said, "You are too old to take on a mortgage. You missed your window. Just rent." I almost listened to those voices. That house sold for $142,000 in 2005. Today, that same house is worth 3 times that amount. Stay with me for the close, because what I'm about to ask you matters more than anything else I have said today. I started with $200 and $40,000 in debt that wasn't even mine. I want you to hear that again. $200, $40,000 in debt, 3 children, 37 years old, and I made it through. Not because I was special, not because I had help, but because one woman named Claudette Morris sat across from me in a break room and told me the truth. You need a number and a plan. That's all this is, baby. A number and a plan. So here's my question for the comments today. What is the number you've been too afraid to write down? Not the story around it, not the reasons, just the number. Write it down this week, just for yourself. Nobody else has to see it. That's your first step. Because the woman who walked out of Fulton County Courthouse with $200 and a broken life is the same woman who paid off her home on Elm Street and retired with $340,000. And she started exactly where you are standing right now. I love you, baby. Now go write down your number.